Reni Amayo is a British Nigerian author. She has spent many years studying the intricacies of different African and specifically Nigerian cultures, mythology, and anthropology to unearth a rich history that has been obscured and forgotten across the globe. Reni's novels include Daughters of Henry and Descendants of the First. Reni, take it away.
Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. I'm going to read chapter 1 of Descendants of the First. So I'll get started. It's the second book of the Return of the Earth Mother series, by the way. Okay, chapter 1, the Enru Mark. Olu's stomach turned as a thin line of crimson formed across his palm. Years spent in battle left him numb to the sight of blood. So why would such a small cut affect him so? Ozo, the Yamusu said, her right hand beckoning to him, but it was the left that held his attention. It held a blood-stained dagger and a time-worn iku. As Olu peered closer, he could see that she was trembling. She was afraid. Olu tended to have that effect on people. Perhaps it was his stature. He stood heads taller than most. His muscles had been beat strong with training, and on his face he wore a scar from a fight he seldom had the stomach to speak of. He knew he could be fearsome on the best of days. He tried and failed to relax the rigidness in his body. This was not the best of days. He attempted to read the woman, but like most Amusus, her face was veiled by a cascade of seashells. Long chains pulled against the flat disc that hung at her neck and extended over her shoulders. Ozo, you need to squeeze, she said, as she drew closer, pausing at every step as though he were seconds from leaping at her. He couldn't deny that he wanted to. He wanted to knock her away and bolt out of the Edamidi. He felt suffocated under the weight of its curved beige walls, lined with thick woven materials which whispered of the countless evils they had seen. Ozo? Olu's nose flared at her persistence, but he did as she asked. What choice did he have? The girl could not die. It's hard the first time, General Ikenna said from beside him. Olu bristled. Was that what Ikenna thought the problem was? The newness of the hellish practice? He sucked in his rage and let out a cool sigh before allowing his gaze to fall on Ikenna, the grandson of the Lord of War Relations, Obi-Somtu. Though they were peers, having started their duty at the same time, Ikenna's blood had propelled him to a height unattainable for Olu. As next in line to succeed his uncle, Ozo Okoro, as head general of Bieze's army, Ikenna had power. That is why Olu had gone to him, his oldest friend, and asked for help. He had known that Ikenna would ask for something in return. He always did. Olu just hadn't imagined that it would be something so depraved. He should have refused him. In truth, he should have pummeled him. But then the girl. Olu took a deep breath and cracked his neck. This is unnecessary, Olu said, his voice more biting than he would have liked. He fought to settle his growing rage as he watched a mocking frown on Ikenna's lips. Unnecessary, Ikenna repeated. Yes, I suppose it is unnecessary to go against my grandfather's wishes and break twins out of the towers. Twins who, according to you, killed Bieze. Olu's head snapped towards the Omusi woman, who immediately looked down to her feet. He felt a sting in his palm. His fingers dug into the fresh wound as he turned back to Ikenna. Never, never say those words again. Olu forced the blows his arms wanted to deliver into words. Now was not the time for action. If he acted, he would kill. If he killed, he would not be able to free the girl. The girls, he corrected, as he thought back to the one he had found with Sinai. His mouth tightened at the memory of the girl who wore Sinai's face, the girl who had torn the earth apart almost a sun cycle ago when she had witnessed her village being ransacked by Bieze's men, his men. It didn't make sense for her to be here, nor did it make sense for the girls to still be alive upon their discovery in Eze Ochichiri's quarters. The Eze's law was clear on the matter of twins. They should be killed on sight. Instead, they were apprehended, and reports of flying chairs and winds that cracked the walls clung to the guards' quivering lips. The whispers had instilled fear in Obi-Samtu. It was that fear that had kept the girls alive. Now, all that stood between the girls and death was time. Time for Obi-Samtu to realize that the Eze was dead, and the responsibility of those girls rested solely on his shoulders. Olu had no doubt that when that time came, Obi-Samtu would burn the city of Unri down if it meant vanquishing them. Olu caught a glare at Ikenna. No one outside the two of them should have known about the Eze's death. He turned to the Omusu. Would he have to kill her now? He glanced at her neck, slender as a branch of rosewood. Snapping her head should be easy enough, yet the thoughts left a sour taste in his mouth. Damn, Ikenna. I gave you my word, Olu said carefully. I will do whatever you ask if you could help me free those girls. An Obara oath is not necessary. Your word is nice, Ikenna started as he drew the dagger across his palm before holding it over the Iku. A chill ran down Olu's spine as he watched Ikenna's blood mix with his. But sadly, I've been betrayed enough times to know that I can't rely on anyone's word, not even a man with your reputation. Freeing those girls means severing ties, important ties. I would be a fool to do that on your word, he said, handing the Iku back to the woman. I want, Olu started. He was stopped by a blood-curdling scream from the Amusu's wide-open mouth. He grasped at the hilt of his Abara sword as his body sprung into action, but it would have no effect on the danger, which seemed to be buried deep within the blood-filled Iku. Beneath the white shell head cover, the Amusi wore a tortured expression. You can't do this, she whispered, the crow seashells clanging as she shook her head. Olu lowered his Abara sword. It simmered green with its deadly enchantment as he put it back in its sleeve. The fear in her voice made the hair on his arms stand up. You can't, no, you can't. Are you broken? Ikenna demanded. His voice remained steady, but Olu had glimpsed fear within his slit eyes. Look, the woman said, thrusting the Iku towards Ikenna. It bears the Mugwairu and the Onu mark. Death. It means change. It means death. So much death. Yes, the kingdom will find a new ruler. You, Ozo Ikenna, you will rule, but the kingdom, death will come over it, as relentless as wildfire. I will be Eze, Ikenna said, his voice thick with emotion. Olu frowned. Was that all he gleamed from her premonition? Death, he said firmly. She sees death. Why wouldn't she? Ikenna scoffed. We're changing a kingdom. For every mark of change, there is a price. Of course, there will be those that will die. Think of what happened when Eze Ochichiri took power. Olu looked at Ikenna as though for the first time. The hunger behind the man's eyes made him want to run away. Ikenna, he jutted his chin forward. Who else if not me? My dear grandfather? Gods, can you imagine that? Eze Sumpto, or better yet, Enri's golden lord, Eze Kuna. Olu held his glare, but he couldn't ignore the pang of defeat at his chest. As lords of war and finance, Obi Sumptu and Obi Akuna were the most powerful Obis, and so the natural contenders for the empty throne. They were also soullessly cruel. Olu, we have a chance here for real change. Despite himself, Olu shook his head at the thought of innocent bloodshed. Nothing could be worth that. Ikenna's eyes narrowed. I have no other reason for keeping those murderous curses alive. If you don't go through with this, I will not help you, and your precious twins will burn. Olu's jaw clamped at the thought of Sinai engulfed in flames. The world needs them, he said gruffly. Ikenna, friend, you must believe me. No, it is you who must believe me when I say that the kingdom needs me. Olu turned to the Omusu woman. He could feel her silent pleading. She wanted him to refuse. She was begging him to refuse. Dread sank into his stomach as he looked at her trembling hands over the blood-filled iku. He stretched his sore hand, reopening the thinly crusted wound. The scent of Sinai hung around him, a memory of a time when she was safe in his arms. The girl must live. Proceed.